Welcome to this week's episode of the Growth Journey Show, the weekly show for business leaders looking to grow their business. What are we talking about this week, Steve?
This week we're talking about the importance of reducing friction with your customer interactions to help your business grow.
And why are we talking about it this week?
It was one of the key messages that came out of the inbound event that I've just recently attended. It was in Boston, hence the cup and the t-shirt. And in their keynote speech, they were talking about momentum. They've got this flywheel concept, and one of the biggest things that underlies that is friction and removing friction to allow that momentum to speed up and maintain.
So the tedious link with our location this week is, as you notice, one person has on a Boston t-shirt and one person doesn't. So when the person that's been to Boston comes back, and there's loads of great ideas that we need to extract, and this is the place that we would typically have our little chats to learn stuff about what the other person's experienced.
But the mission is that Chris is coming to Boston next year, and hopefully the rest of the team.
So this is video 2 of 3 of the 3 key things that Steve is going to tell me about.
Yeah.
So why is it important for an SME that's looking to grow to reduce friction in their business?
Well, I think at the end of the day, friction reduces momentum. So taking friction away increases momentum, and all of us as SME businesses are looking to grow the business. So we're looking for this upward momentum with the business. So removing friction increases that momentum, and it's really focused on the customer. So reducing customer friction, because that's going to make them feel really good about our business, and that's going to increase the amount of business that we can do and the amount of business that the customers want to do with us as well.
I think one of the challenges is that businesses feel very precious about forcing customers to go through a bunch of different steps, and quite honestly, I think people will value convenience over the systems that you've created, and forcing them through a systems or a process isn't necessarily always the right thing to do. Example of Tesco's was the one that we was talking about earlier.
Yeah, and I think most businesses basically put these processes in place and these steps in place, and they're for the business's benefit rather than the customer's benefit. So for example, the thing that we were talking about that hopefully everyone's familiar with is Tesco. So all of us, if we want to put this stuff in place in our business, we need to look at what our customer journey is. We need to get that down on paper, or obviously in electronic form in this day and age. And we want to look at the steps that the customer goes through, and we want to look at where those friction points are and how we can remove those friction points. So for Tesco's, the biggest friction point is where we all have to stand in line at the till to pay for our shopping. And invariably those lines can get pretty big. So the first thing Tesco did is they put more cashiers in place to reduce those lines right down. And then the more recent thing that they've done is they've created self-service checkout, and even like self-checkout as you go round the shop. And by basically putting those self-service in place, they're taking out all of that friction. So before they'd have had this cashier sort of policing it, and they'd have thought, we need a cashier, otherwise people are just going to walk out the shop with all these goods. But most of us are really honest, we wouldn't dream of walking out the shop without paying for it. And the benefit is we can go this self-checkout, we can just check out ourselves, and there's basically 3 or 4 times as many checkouts in the same space that 1 or 2 or 3 checkouts used to take up previously. So they get a lot more people through the shop, they've taken that whole friction out, and they probably do a lot more business as a result of it.
One of the ways in which you can get started is just to imagine yourself as an e-commerce business. You know, there's been bookstores that have been revolutionized by Amazon, and you know, there's various different products that you can now buy online that you used to have to, you know, drive down to the high street and buy. You know, there's companies like Tesla who have put like a £189,000 sports car on a website to buy with your credit card. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility. However expensive your product is and however complicated you think it is to buy, you need to get yourself into the mindset of eventually one day you probably should be having an e-commerce options that people can just buy it. As much as people value relationships, I think the convenience of being able to buy it on your terms whenever you want to buy it, and not when your salesperson is available to send you a contract to sign, that's really, really fundamental to think about the future of your business and how to make it a lot more easier to do business with you.
Yeah, so go on a mission, reduce the friction for your customers in your business, and without a doubt it's going to help you grow. So I think that's it for this week, isn't it, Chris?
Indeed. Until next week, we will catch you in the next video.